back to another edition of the Pagcast. I'm your host, Michael Begani, joined alongside Edmonton Oil Kings forward Shea van Olm. Shea, welcome to the Pagcast. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
You mentioned to me off camera that this is your first podcast interview, and I've spoken to a lot of hockey players, and they've said that it's their hopping on the podcast is their first time as well doing an interview. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for coming on. It means a lot to me. This wouldn't have happened without you answering my DM.
It was pretty cool. I saw your message there and I read it and I thought it was a super cool opportunity. And I talked with my team and the media team there and they thought it was a good idea too. So yeah, I'm super pumped.
My first question to you as we open up this interview, how has being back in the arena with fans this season brought a sense of normalcy back into your life?
It's brought a lot of normalcy back into all of our lives. We're super fortunate to play in the building that we have here in Edmonton, and the fans are great, and we get a lot of people coming out to our games. So yeah, it's really cool and really fun to see and fun to play in front of.
When sports were postponed during March of 2020, what did you end up doing? Because there was an extended off season there for you, especially.
Yeah, I remember it being shutting down, and my older siblings coming back from their university. So it was nice to see them and hang out with them for a bit, but it got boring and just doing homework, still in school at that point, and working out in the basement and trying to stay active and watch movies. And yeah, it sucked for sure. So
did you end up watching Tiger King at that point? Because obviously that took over the internet at the time.
Yeah, I actually did. I watched it with my older brother, and we thought it was pretty funny. It's a bit outrageous, but we kind of just hopped on. We saw that everyone else was watching it, so we just thought we'd give it a shot.
I mean, it took off at the right time because with sports not playing, I mean, sports is such a huge portion of the entertainment industry. So with that gone, it was a great time for Netflix to release that.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect time. And I remember with no hockey games or NBA games going on, I would watch like old recordings of old games and highlights and stuff like that.
It's funny you mentioned that because as I came home from Ottawa during reading week, I took the train home. I got really bored, so I threw up like a highlight of the Montreal Canadiens and like Toronto Maple Leafs playoff series. So that was a great ride back because I was just watching like the hour and a half. It was about like a 5.5 hour train ride. So I watched the whole game back. It was really fun because it was one of the games the Habs won.
Yeah, that was a great series. That was a crazy run that Montreal went on. It was pretty cool.
And now they're at the basement of the NHL, going for Shane Wright, hoping that they can Shane Wright, can get Shane Wright, as a fan would say. It was a crazy fall from grace they had.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Price played so well. So, it was definitely cool to see. I actually grew up in Montreal, so a lot of my buddies were really, really pumped. And I remember texting them, and my sister goes to McGill. So she currently lives there, and she was super excited. So yeah, a lot of Canadians fans in my house.
Did your friends end up going to any of the games, whether it was like Stanley Cup Finals or playoffs or any playoff games, but whether it was inside or outside?
Yeah, they all went outside, sort of just downtown, and had a good time. I think getting tickets to those games were pretty
pricey.
Yeah, pretty hard to come by. So they kind of had their fun elsewhere.
Was there a player growing up who you wanted to model your game after?
Growing up, my favorite player as a kid was Ovechkin. I wouldn't say I try to model my game after him, but when you're a young kid and you dream about playing hockey your whole life, I just wanted to score goals and be physical. So I'll go with him. I watch a lot of Josh Anderson. He's a player, Matthew Tkachuk, players like that, and try to be a bit like them. It seems to work for them. So.
Well, they're both, those players that you mentioned are both, great hockey players. Ovechkin, he's probably going to break Gretzky's record. Anderson, coming from my hometown of Burlington, Ontario, and Makachuk just loves the chirping there. Yeah, I loved all those players that you mentioned.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'd say I try to model my game after the last two there. Ovechkin more of my childhood hero.
100%, but he
Yeah.
loves throwing the ball around.
Yeah. Back when he was younger, he was a bit more reckless.
You're also a big Spin Chicklets fan like myself. How did you start liking them? Like, how did you get into that podcast?
Yeah, I remember it was a while back, years ago. My really good friend, he had showed me it, and this is before they had Paul Bissonnette, and I kind of gave it a listen, and I didn't really like it at first, and it was my first time ever listening to a podcast, I think. So I was like, oh, not sort of my thing. And then once they got him, and he was telling just funny stories, and yeah, I love them. They kind of keep me up to date on the news and stuff, so it's pretty cool.
I agree with you there. I think prior to when they did hire Paul Bissonnette, a part of the Spin Chicklets podcast, it was almost missing an element, and Paul Bisnasty did add that element in.
Yeah, for sure. I would say so. He's definitely the funny guy in the group, and the stories he has are pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think that with his wild stories, I think that was really the missing element, because now you got a producer, Mikey Grinelli, you have Ryan Whitney, Paul Bissonnette, and I'm forgetting the last guy there. Wow, it just escaped my mind.
All right.
Yeah, all right, Rear Admiral,
Yeah.
and I think they're great because they work off one another. The show flows so well.
Yeah, no, it's a really well done, and I'm happy to see that they've gotten a lot of attention.
Growing up in well, I mean, you grew up in Montreal, but on your elite prospects, it says you were born in Calgary.
Yeah,
We'll stick with Calgary because it's nice and geographical with Edmonton.
yeah.
Were you a Flames fan at all, or did you stick with the Habs there?
Yeah. So I was born in Calgary. I moved to Montreal at a really young age, and moved back to Calgary grade 7, I believe. So yeah, definitely, I'm the type of guy I want the hometown team to win, sort of thing, when I'm watching hockey games. So yeah, I loved going to Flames games and cheering them on, and Habs games, and yeah, I would say I'm somewhat of a Flames fan for sure.
I assume that your family and friends are in the building when Edmonton plays Calgary. That must give you extra motivation since it's a rivalry game, plus having family and friends in the building.
No, yeah, for sure. I think it's really cool. I mean, they watch you your whole life at the smaller rinks, and then you 1 year, and 1 year changes, and you're playing at the Saddledome in front of them. So yeah, the first time it was really special. And then, like you said, it kind of pumps me up, and adds to the rivalry for sure.
Getting into your career here in 2018-19, you played in the Alberta Cup for Team Alberta Green. Would you be able to talk about that experience?
Yeah, the Alberta Cup was a great experience. It was my first time doing anything with Hockey Alberta. I hadn't made the Pee Wee Prospects Alberta team, or whatever it is. And yeah, it was a great experience. A lot of buddies on that team. They kind of do it. So there's 2 teams for all of Calgary: Okotoks, Lethbridge, and I think Medicine Hat. So they do 2 teams for that whole range of players, and it was an elite group of players that made the teams, and it was a great experience, and it was big leading up to my draft.
Did that kind of give you a insight on what the WHL would be like, given that a lot of people get drafted from Team Alberta Green and just the Alberta Cup in general?
Yeah, for sure. The pace of play was really high, and a lot of my teammates and guys that I was playing against in that tournament are, playing Junior A and are trying to get committed, or playing in the WHL. So it's really cool to see how we've all kind of grown.
You had 6 points in 5 games. That was your stat line. With it being such a highly touted tournament, how did you make sure you didn't put as much pressure on yourself to perform?
Yeah, I think I played with really good players, and we gelled quick. Um, Buddies in the off season, and here we are playing in sort of like a summer tournament with the elite kids in Alberta. So we were just having fun, and I thought we had a really good team, and probably should have took home gold, but we got stuck with bronze.
Well, at
So
least you got on the podium. That's all that matters,
yeah,
right?
we got on the podium. Our schedule was a bit was a bit brutal. We got the worst schedule out of everybody. So I hate to make excuses, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel
It's a
about it.
viable excuse. Look, we can
Yeah.
all blame the schedule makers.
Yeah. It's
You
an easy
know,
one to just shove it under the rug.
exactly. Like the NFL, a lot of teams go through, easy schedules. I know for my Buffalo Bills, they had probably one of the easiest schedules on the season, yet one of the worst records they could possibly get from it. So, yeah, I know. I totally understand where you're coming from with the schedule makers point there.
Yeah, for sure.
You got drafted by the Oil Kings in the 6th round of the 2019 WHL draft. What did that mean for you?
Yeah, it was really special. The draft's actually like a couple days after the Alberta Cup, so I think that kind of boosted my confidence. I didn't know if I was going to get drafted or not, and obviously my buddies too are kind of worried about it as well. So everyone's super anxious, and you are really young, 14, 15-year-old kid. So, but yeah, I remember hearing my name get called. I was just listening to the draft, and it was super exciting. My family was excited, and my parents as well. And yeah, it was a great day. I was super pumped.
How did you celebrate?
I was just super happy. A lot of people were texting me, and I didn't really do anything special. We were just kind of super happy and shocked. And Edmonton's such a great place and so close to home. So I got really, really lucky with that. And yeah, couldn't have gone any better.
Exactly. You're lucky that you didn't get drafted to, let's say, Winnipeg, for example, which is much further away than home.
Yeah, for sure. That really helps. There's a lot of teams that are far, far away from Calgary. So yeah, I definitely got really lucky.
In 2019-20, you had 60 points, but in 35 games, but 147 PIMs. That is kind of what sticks out. Asserting yourself as a physical player, how important is it to your game to use that physical side?
Yeah. I think it's really important. Sort of my Bantam and midget when they started keeping stats, I'd always see that I have so many penalty minutes, and I just physical player, and I was always a bit bigger than the other kids too. So if I'd lay a big hit, they would call something. So, but yeah, it definitely stands out to everybody. I think it's a pretty cool stat line. So yeah.
It's one of the ways the refs can keep you in line,
Yeah. Funny story about that. I actually I remember I was going out for warm-ups one game, and the ref skated, or the linesman or somebody, and he was like, "I don't want any shenanigans tonight, Van Olm." And I was also the captain of the team, and leading scorer in the league at this point. And I was just shocked. Like the refs were petrified. They didn't know what I was going to do. They thought I was crazy, but
You were the Tom Wilson of the league.
yeah.
That is hilarious. Leading scorer and also leading penalty minute guy as well. And you're getting chirped by the refs. Wow, that is actually amazing.
No, it was a crazy year. It was a fun year, but yeah.
Did you find it incredible at all that you remained above point per game and still racked up the amount of penalties that you did? Because usually with physical players, they aren't seen as racking up, 60 points and being above point per game when they're usually taking penalties.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised. I even think the first 9 games of the year I didn't have a point. I remember Jamie Porter, the Oil Kings head scout. I remember in Fort Saskatchewan, we just got beat like 10-0 or double digits, and I had no points, and he was kind of frustrated and I was frustrated, and yeah, it was a weird start, and then it sort of picked up, and then obviously the penalty minutes followed, I guess. I never really kept track of them or even worried about them, but yeah, I'd say my point total though, it was the second last game of the year, and I actually ended up recording an 8-point night.
Stat pattern. Oh my God.
Yeah, I had 7 goals. It's currently the record, I think.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I'd ever see a 7-goal performance.
Yeah, in the Alberta minor midget league, it's most goals in the game record. So that was pretty cool too. They had a call-up goalie in though, the other team. So yeah, that was a crazy night.
What was your story when you first learned that the NBA season would be postponed because of the coronavirus? Because that was kind of like the following domino. The NHL followed suit, then you see U Sports, OHL, WHL, and everything else.
Yeah, I remember I remember freaking out. I remember my friends freaking out, and that was when the grocery stores were everyone was going in and buying a bunch of extra, toilet paper and
Yep. Paper
stuff like that.
towels.
So yeah, it was a weird time, and yeah, when the NBA got shut down, it was definitely sort of like a reality check that it's really coming, and to look back at it now, it's funny to talk about even because we know so much about the disease now.
Exactly. Like we were so unknowledgeable about the disease back in 2020 that, 2 years later, although we're still in the same pandemic, we know a lot more now. So we can make jokes about, us stacking up on paper towels and toilet paper. It looks silly.
Yeah, it was. It is pretty funny. So, I mean, you never know, right? A lot of people just didn't know what was going on. So,
With, the way the world was in 2020 and 2021, you played with Northern Alberta U18 prep. How fortunate were you to land a spot playing hockey? Because in Ontario, most of the rinks were closed and you couldn't really find a spot to or a club to even play with.
yeah, no, I was super fortunate. I remember Matt Tassone, the head coach at NAX. He called me and they wanted me to play, and obviously I'm connecting the dots. I've been drafted to the Oil Kings, and it's my goal to play there. And I just recently signed a contract with them. And they actually, in fact, had three other Oil Kings signed prospects on the team as well. So I thought it was a great choice. And then obviously, yeah, skating every day at the River Cree Casino in Edmonton was great. Super lucky. A lot of my friends and like you said, a lot of rinks even were not being used. So
You mentioned that there were three other Edmonton Oil Kings prospects playing with you on the same team. Did that kind of help you create chemistry with them? Because you're probably going to be playing with them for 4 years, 4 or 5 years as you're with the club.
yeah, yeah, we had the goalie Colby Hay and defenseman Ross Stanley and then Dawson Seitz as well. Ross Stanley and Hay made the team. Me and Seitz were eventually called up and ended up living together. So yeah, you create good relationships, and NAX is I've created a lot of great friendships from NAX. So yeah, I think it really bonds playing on the same team.
How did that team help you keep in shape for the WHL season that happened later that year?
I thought it was great. We had a lot of players like Skylar Bruce. I'm trying to think. We had a lot of junior guys and a lot of WHL players. Obviously, all the Oil Kings guys I just mentioned, Bilal Nori, who's playing on the Hitman now. Yeah, it was super high paced. Practices were super high tempo. We ended up playing, I think, 5 or 6 games against OHE Edmonton and Southern Alberta. So yeah, it was great. Definitely kept me in shape.
You ended up playing 9 games with the Oil Kings in that whole bubble scenario. Could you take me through what that was like for you?
Yeah, it was super exciting. Getting called up with the team that they had. Obviously, we had known there'd be no playoffs, so those guys super bummed out. But just meeting everybody and kind of getting my feet wet in the league. I think it was really big for me and Dawson. Um, I think meeting the older guys and coming in this year, being a lot more comfortable with them, is a big thing too. And yeah, it was a great experience. Such a great team, and it was a winning environment and a lot of great guys.
This kind of ties into my first question here. How did playing in an empty arena feel? Because a lot of the time you had to generate your own, momentum, whether it was you throwing the ball or maybe Gunner scoring.
Yeah, it was weird. The empty buildings were weird. It was also my first time playing in the WHL. So even when we'd go into Red Deer or Lethbridge, it'd be my first time even being in the arena. So I didn't know anything else. But at the same time, just creating energy for the guys, like you said. We have to create our own energy, and yeah, it was tough, but we found a way.
It seems like things are getting back to normal this season for the WHL. Unfortunately, the Oil Kings, among other teams, are in isolation, like you told me off camera. You're in your second season as a WHL player. How would you evaluate your play this season?
Yeah, I think it's been good. Like you said, we're in isolation right now, which is brutal. We lost players due to the short World Juniors. Um, Obviously, at the start of the year, we didn't have some guys because they were at NHL camps, and Jake ended up playing in the NHL for a bit. Um, so yeah, I'd say my game this year's been good. I'm trying to improve and trying to be a lot more comfortable, play with pace, the habits and details, and do whatever it takes to win. We're at our time right now as a team that we want to win, and I want to do whatever it takes, because you only get so many chances at winning.
I love how you mentioned that you only get so many chances at winning, and I feel like that kind of uh, shoulders off of some of the veterans in the locker room that send that kind of message. Not every season is a guaranteed playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean the older guys, the 20-year-olds and some of the older guys that have been here for years now, they've been robbed of 2 seasons. The first season they were a really strong team, or I'm talking about 2020, before their first season in COVID.
Mhm.
So yeah, in 2020 they had a really strong team. Then last year we had a really strong team, and back to back year no playoffs. So yeah, they're definitely fed up, and they're sending the message that we're gonna win it.
With
Um,
you being a physical player, how important is it to deliver a big hit to juice up the team?
yeah, I think it's a big part of my game. I think being a young player and being a little bit lower down in the lineup, I think I just trying to give out positive minutes and give my team momentum and do whatever I can. And yeah, giving a big hit or making a nice play definitely pumps the guys up.
Speaking of, making a positive impact on the team, getting momentum, you've been in 3 fights this season. How would you rank those fights that you've been in?
Yeah, my first fight I fought Reese Rayside on Lethbridge. It was a bit of a wrestling match. He's fought a bunch, and it was my first fight, so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Kind of just grabbed him, threw a couple punches. He threw a couple punches, and then kind of just fell over. My second fight was against Joel Sexsmith. We were kind of going at it, and he's been in a lot of fights also. He kind of got the better of me, I would say, but still kind of learning. And then recently fought Schneider on Saskatoon.
Wow.
Um, so I fought him. It was a pretty good bout. I thought I did pretty well for myself. And yeah, I mean, fighting I think it has a big part in our game still. And I think in the Saskatoon game, we were down 2 goals. I fought and we ended up winning the game. So you never know. And whatever I can do to help and be an impact player.
Are there any teammates, or sorry, is there anyone on the team that can provide any fighting tips to you so that you can get better and, not at least embarrass yourself, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for sure. I actually I talk a lot with Simon Kubasek. He's a 20-year-old defenseman. He had played in Seattle before, and he's fought a bunch. And he definitely taught me some things. Jackson Weeb, we traded for him from Red Deer, and he had fought a bunch too. And yeah, those guys just giving me tips and trick. But in the heat of the moment, you kind of just black out
Oh
and
yeah.
hope you don't get hurt. But yeah, it's definitely really nice of them to give me tips, and yeah, they've been good, and they're super happy that I was dropping my gloves for a bit there.
Another accomplishment this season has been your first WHL goal that came against Medhat. What's the story behind that?
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure one of my really good friends and teammates, Caleb Reimer, he passed away last year. We were really close and fast friends, and we were super excited for this year. And he unfortunately passed away. But a really special story about my first goal is it was actually on his birthday. So I ended up scoring my first goal on Garen Borkland against Medhat on his birthday. Also recorded an assist that game, and it got the first star. We ended up losing the game, which kind of sucked in a shootout. But yeah, it was his 17th birthday, and I definitely had a lot of juice that night, and felt good. And yeah, I went in. So
I'm sorry for your loss there. I know how personal connections, how deep that can mean to you. Thank you again for sharing that story. It must felt so good for the team and for you personally. 2 points, first star on his birthday. That must have meant a lot to you, a lot to the team. And yeah, once again, I'm sorry for your loss there with Caleb Reimer.
yeah, it's really sad. I've actually grown to connect to his parents a lot, and his sister and his girlfriend, and just helping them out. And they've been super good. And yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, it definitely I try to honor him every time I play hockey, and every day and everything that I do. Um, I only knew him for 2 months in the bubble, but yeah, we grew really close and FaceTimed a lot in the summer. So it's definitely a tragedy.
As this season progresses, what else are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, I'm trying to just keep improving. I'm trying to, provide secondary offense where I can, be a physical player, fill that void of a kind of hard nosed, rough player on this team. And yeah.
Playing in 20 or so WHL games, have you encountered any struggles? And if so, how have you gone through those struggles?
Yeah, I think a big struggle that a lot of us young guys on the team are kind of going through is the travel, the long road trips, and especially in the Western League, it's really far, and you'll be driving all day, all night, and get home and have to go to school in the morning. So that's been a big adjustment. The pace of play is super high, and yeah, I would say traveling is the biggest thing I'd have to adjust to.
It's all about the grind of the season. And,
Yeah.
it's good that you're getting adjusted to it.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of cool too, because it is my first time, and you only get your rookie season once. So I kind of cherish it as well.
And you're actually in the arenas with fans for the first time. So that is kind of like an added element because back in the bubble, there were no fans.
Yeah, the fans are great. It's really really cool. It's sort of like a dream come true, when you're playing in Rogers Place, and there's thousands of people, screaming and yelling and cheering you on. So yeah, and then playing on the road also, I think it's really cool too when they're booing you and heckling you in the box, and just yeah, I love all of it.
Your team right now is sitting at 24-9-3, 5-5-0 in your last 10, second place in the Eastern Conference. You guys are a very good offensive team with 145 goals for, good defensively with 102 goals against. What's the mood like in the locker room right now?
Yeah, I think the mood is we're super excited. We're really tight knit group. A lot of these guys have been here for years, and the older guys are really good to us young guys, and we're a family, and we want to win it now. And we got we got a lot going on, especially with the passing of Caleb. So that motivates us. And yeah, we're a hungry team, and the message in the room is win every night, and that's what we expect from ourselves.
The WHL has a lot of talent around the league, especially in the Eastern Conference. Winnipeg, the Ice, who you guys are chasing for first right now, has Matt Savoy. Regina, who you guys kind of put in the rearview mirror, has Connor Bedard. What's it like going up against these top tier talents this season?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of good teams and a lot of good players in this league, and I think it comes down to how you can perform when it matters, and that's what we're preparing for. And yeah, playing against some of those top guys are cool and stuff, but we're a team that's worried about ourselves, and Yeah, trying to shut them down.
Oh, 100%. You never want to have them break out, especially in a playoff series when it matters most.
Yeah.
7 of your current teammates have been drafted to NHL teams. What are you able to say about what they bring to the locker room on a daily basis?
Yeah. I yeah, I'm so fortunate to have that in our locker room. I'm really good friends with a lot of guys on the team, and some of them have been drafted. So yeah, it's super cool. They had their experiences at camp this year, and tell us stories, and we would always ask them how it was, and yeah, they're professionals, and they really come to the rink with the right attitude, and teach us young guys what it's like to be a pro and be an NHL camp invite or be a draft pick or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's been great. It's we're super lucky.
A good crop of those 7 players that got drafted did make their World Junior teams respectively. However, those did get canceled. But how did the team adapt to the games that were played without Caden Gooley, for example, plus others not in the lineup?
Yeah, we'd called up some guys, some young guys from their midget teams, and that was great too. The good young players. I think we got a really good team now, but I also think we have a good future. So yeah, we adjusted, and some of our guys that would be middle six guys had to play big minutes, and I think they did well. We had a pretty decent road trip, and yeah, I think it was an adjustment for sure, but I think we did well.
When you saw that Edmonton acquired Gooley, he's being labeled as a smooth skater, kind of defensive defenseman. What else do you think he does that makes Edmonton better?
Yeah, Ghouls is he's a great guy. He works extremely hard. He's a role model. I think he's underrated in his offensive game. I think he can shut down any team's top guys, and yeah, we're super fortunate to have him. We gave up a lot, and 2 good buddies of mine, but that's just the game of hockey, and yeah, it's a big addition, and we're excited to have him.
How has your game day routine changed since playing in the bubble?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. The bubble was crazy. We especially in the Rogers Place, because we were sharing it with the NHL. So yeah, it's definitely a lot different, a lot more laid back now. Um, More normal, and from what the older guys are telling me, it's more normal, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's been nice.
Is it kind of eye opening that this is your first time seeing other teams in the WHL since during the bubble you would play the same team over and over again?
Yeah, we only played teams in Alberta last year, which was super cool, going to Lethbridge and Red Deer, Medicine Hat, and obviously Calgary. But yeah, I think it's super cool going into places like Winnipeg and Brandon, and Swift Current, and the places that you hadn't been before, and it's cool to see around the league. Still haven't gone out west to BC or the US, but hopefully that day will come.
That would be very exciting for you, to go to BC and the US. I hope that you do get to see all of the WHL arenas.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. It's pretty cool. There's some really nice ones. So yeah, that'd be fun for sure.
What is your favorite arena to travel to?
Um, I would have to say Rogers Place. I it's funny, like it's pretty cliche to say your own arena, but I actually watched a game my minor midget year with my team, an Oil Kings game, and that was the only time I've ever been to Rogers Place, sort of as a fan. And yeah, it was really cool. Such an incredible building, and we don't take it for granted at all. But when you're there every day, it's a lot different perspective from when you're a fan.
How about the worst arena that you've traveled to? One that you kind of dread every time that you see the team on the schedule?
Um, yeah, that's a funny question. I wouldn't say it's the worst arena. I just think the Moose Jaw Warriors, they're such a hard building to play in. I think it's a great arena, and it's a good team, but I would just say I hate playing there. When I see that we're on the road in Moose Jaw, it's definitely a tough place to win.
If you were, so when we're talking about road trips here, and it's kind of like an extended road trip, how does the whole rooming situation work? Do you kind of get an input, or does the coach kind of just say you're with this guy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they kind of just give us envelopes and they'll have whoever your roommates on. And like I said, we're such a tight group. It's great. It's I always find myself with a buddy in my hotel room. So yeah, it's been great.
If you were to play another sport, what would it be?
Um, I think I played a lot of soccer in Montreal actually. I might get some heat for saying soccer because some of the guys think I'm not the best sewer player. But I don't know. That's a good question. I would say soccer, maybe golf. I like golf a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Hockey's the only really thing I've ever known. So
I mean, I'm right with you right there. The only golf that I do is mini putting. I don't go. I rarely go to the driving range. I can't shoot properly, so the only thing that I take pride in my golf game is mini putting.
yeah, for sure.
As we're closing off this interview here, do you have any advice for younger hockey players?
Um, I would say just someone told me this when I was really young. It's just be who you are no matter what. Play how you want to play. I remember, like you said, with all the penalty minutes, coaches yelling at me and tell me to stay out of the box. But I guess it sort of paid off in the long run. But just be who you are and have fun with it. At the end of the day, it's a game, and you're trying to win and you're trying to score goals and have fun, especially when you're a young kid, because it doesn't last. Hockey doesn't last forever. So
Well, I'd like to thank again Shea van Olm for joining me on today's podcast. Thank you again, Shea.
yeah, thanks a lot. It's been a great time.